Okay, so this is recently completed work that was basically a driving trip from Inuvik all the way down to Dawson City on the Dempster. Just completed at the end of August this year. So, and the purpose was to look for items that were affecting roadbed, drivability, and we were looking for items kind of specifically related to the effects of climate change. So what this presentation will contain, I'm just going to go through the purpose again, and there'll be a whole bunch of photos of things that we saw on the road, and then at the end, what the next steps are. So the project was jointly funded by both the NWT government and the Yukon government, and it's the kind of first phase of a project to assess the vulnerability of the Dempster Highway to the impacts of climate change. And just to explain that a bit more, climate change is just one factor that affects the road, and it's sometimes hard to differentiate between what's climate change and what's normal roadbed maintenance. So we completed a driving trip at the end of August. Representatives of EBA, the government of Northwest Territories, government of Yukon, and Chris Burns from Carleton. And again, we're looking for the effects of climate change on the road, mainly related to warming air temperature, which of course causes warming ground temperature, looking for the effects of increased flow in culverts and under bridges, and then the effects of basically extreme weather events. Summary: Permafrost, the Dempster Highway from Dawson City up to Inuvik. It basically starts off discontinuous permafrost and then goes into continuous permafrost all the way up. I couldn't find a map of the Yukon, so I had to use the whole map of Canada here. The biggest issue with permafrost on the Dempster is that it's warm permafrost. So it's all warmer than -2 degrees C, so it's really susceptible to any changes to surface works. So we broke the Dempster down into several regions. 0 to 73 North Klondike River. There really was no permafrost issues there at all. 73 to 160, what we call Bloxton Uplands, that's where Chapman Lake is, and really ice-rich permafrost in that area. Ogilvie River basically follows the Ogilvie River for a while. Not too many permafrost issues there, but a lot of erosion issues and kind of extreme weather events, the floods and overtopping of the road. Then up to Eagle Plains, where again, the first part of it's on bedrock, not really too bad, but then further towards the NWT border, you get into ice-rich permafrost. Richardson Mountains, and on the NWT side, same thing, permafrost. Peel Plateau, really ice-rich permafrost, and same with Mackenzie Delta. This map, kind of apologize for the scale, not very good, but it shows these regions going from Dawson City up to Inuvik. One of the first things that we did was to try and put together all the data that we had. So again, sorry about the scale, but this shows the highway, the first 250 kilometers from close to Dawson City up, and all these little points here are information that we've collected, either ground temperature data, geotechnical information, old reports, things like that. So on the first section of highway, for the next section up to the NWT border through Eagle Plains, we have a lot of information related to Eagle Plains, mainly from oil and gas work. And the last section up to Inuvik, fair amount of drilling done up in that area as well. So starting at the Yukon end, the first thing that we saw, like I said, from 0 to 76, the road follows the highway, no real permafrost issues. At kilometer 96, there's an area of these collapsing ice wedges, and when you drive by, you wouldn't really think of it as being collapsed ice wedges. It just looks like another kind of wet area close to the road. But if you get out and look closely, you can see the old peat mounds and and you can see the old ice wedges, here going right up to the highway. So this is an area that's continuing to expand and could potentially affect the highway. Again, related to warming air temperature, warming ground temperature. The ice switch area, for the next several hundred kilometers, there's quite a few large lakes. This is one of them, Two Moose Lake, and there's also a lake called Chapman Lake. When the highway was originally built, the road was a long ways away from these lakes, but because of warming temperatures, these lakes are getting larger and larger and larger, and now they're actually right up to the edge of the embankment at quite a few locations. There's also, although the main part of the highway is unglaciated in the south, there were two fingers of alpine glaciation that kind of came together on the highway, and they left a lot of moraine, and these moraine deposits are showing signs of instability. Not affecting the highway yet, but getting pretty close, because the highway actually kind of meanders around these moraine deposits. Also, the rivers, increased flow in the rivers has created erosion, and the Yukon government's had to move this section of highway kind of away from the Blackstone River because of erosion and settlement and tension cracks and stuff. So they moved it inland a bit, but they did a little bit of a cut in order to meet the vertical curves, and we all know what happens when you make a cut in permafrost. So now this is an increased maintenance area where they've had to keep adding fill because the permafrost is melting under the road. And in particular in the ditch, they're getting all kinds of ponded water and things. That's a general view of the ice-rich ground in that area, the Chapman Lake area. You can't really see the ice wedges here, but it's all patterned ground. Further along, we get into the flow kind of hydrology problem. These culverts are pretty big, but they ice up in the wintertime a lot. So one of the increased maintenance items that the highways people have noticed is they have to keep cleaning ice out from these things, like a lot more now than they ever had to in the past. And this shows the effects of having big equipment trying to clear out ice in the wintertime close to culverts. They've had some other erosion at areas close to the highway that have actually been repaired. This is a nice job they did here. They a bunch of riprap at the bottom, and then a seeded area on the slope, which seems to be holding up fairly well. It's only a year old now, but it's holding up pretty good. Just before Ogilvie River, there's a section of road that's created from black shale, and this is acting like a warm iron on ice. During the summer, it heats up and it's sinking into the natural subgrade. So they've all through here they've lost embankment height, and we have to decide what's going to happen there, whether they just add more fill or whatever. This is probably directly related to climate change. At Engineer Creek, another erosion problem. The creek is impinging on the actual bridge, and it's eroding away the riprap from around the piles. So this probably started as kind of one extreme weather event, a great big flood, and it just eroded it away. But now it's a maintenance item that they have to deal with. Further along, I think you saw this picture yesterday. It's a old debris flow from a couple years ago, but it started high up in the permafrost and probably triggered by a rain event. And I think this one actually did affect the highway. They had to do a bit of clearing to keep the highway open. And one last section of the Ogilvie River. They have lots of erosion problems here. This is just some of the riprap that they've had to place over the last couple of years, and it seems to be holding up pretty good. So then we climb up to Eagle Plains. Like I said, through Eagle Plains there wasn't a lot because the road's mainly on bedrock. Then, I didn't do this on purpose. This is supposed to say Richardson Mountains. Anyway, this is a culvert that the water's found a new path next to it, and we don't know what caused it. You can actually see through the culvert still; it's open, but it's quite possible that when the highway was originally designed, all the culverts were maybe a little bit undersized for the frequency of flood events flood and flow events that they're getting now. So this is a real maintenance issue. They have to watch it and keep filling it in until they get the money to actually replace the culvert. On the NWT side now, in 1985, there was a vehicle accident here where the Yukon minister, I think the Minister of Justice, he was a truck driver, and he ended up getting killed here. So there was a big foo-for-ah, and a whole bunch of money spent getting this piece of highway fixed up. And then they went in and replaced a whole bunch of fill, took out all the ice, great big subcut, put down insulation, and the main part of the road seems to be working pretty good now, but there's still ice wedges on the outside of the road that caused the original accident, and they're settling and creating tension cracks, as you see here, on both sides of the road. And here you can see the ice wedge traces and ponded water, which isn't good. And again here, tension cracks, ponded water. You can see the outline of the ice wedges here. And again, another view from further back, looking at the extent of all the tension cracks. Further along, kilometer 27, it's a creek, not too big a creek, but it's got a series of shallow flow slides on both sides, and it's been going on for a while. It's not quite of the same magnitude as what we saw yesterday, but it's affecting the creek, and then it's affecting the road. Here, this is the main highway here, and you can see it's just a continuous settlement problem of the shoulders and maintenance and tension cracks and all stuff. So this is just another issue related to warming permafrost temperature and also probably thermal erosion of the caused by the creek flow. For further along, high fills, tension cracks, kind of affecting the road, caused by thermal erosion at the toe again, and removal of materials, unloading the toe, possibly over steep slopes. Who knows? But again, it's highways moving. You saw these yesterday from Steve's presentation. His pictures were from the slides looking towards the highway. These are what you see from the highway. So they're not directly affecting the highway yet, but there is the potential. And some of these are quite big, as you saw. Also on the Peel Plateau, very ice-rich ground. This particular section, we think was an old highway alignment back here somewhere that affected the drainage, and the permafrost is thawing at the toe, and they've built a bit of a toe berm here, but they still got surface drainage issues and drainage issues along here that's just continually causing movement. This is a tourist we found at Midway Lake pit. We asked him if he wanted to ride, and he said no, so we just left him. He was looking at gravel. The Peel Plateau, again, this is a culvert. This is the ponded water causing permafrost thaw. The culvert, was under the roadbed, obviously not working, so you need to do something. You need to get this fixed and find a way to keep the toe from thawing again. Just off the highway, there's a couple of telecommunication towers. They're also experiencing, the effects of climate change, not only affecting the highway, but also other infrastructure. The tower here, you can see the buildings itself are on piles into bedrock, but the pad keeps going down. And this particular pad, they've had to hire a contractor to just bring in truckload and truckload of gravel, because every year they have to keep filling it. So it's a real maintenance item, just like it would be in the highway. And here's what's happened at the tower itself. You can see how much it's settled. And they filled it here too. And again, the road out to the guy wires. This is what happens if you don't maintain your highways, or if you don't do any maintenance. This is what will happen to the road. Last one up towards Inuvik. There's a huge sinkhole here, kilometer 227. It's been there for a long time, and it was drilled in the mid 80s. And about 3 meters down, there's about 6 meters of ice. The pure ice, and this particular section might have been okay, except that they cut through a little bit of a hill. You can just see it here. If they hadn't cut through the hill, it may not have started to thaw, but now it's started to thaw, and it's just going to keep on thawing and settling until it's all done. And that's it. So there is evidence that climate change is affecting maintenance requirements on the Dempster. As I said earlier, it's sometimes difficult to separate climate change effects from regular maintenance, but all of the highways people that we talked to seem to think that maintenance requirements were increasing, and they also make mention of these random sinkholes that just happen to appear in the subgrade. We never actually saw any, but they are treating them pretty seriously. And again, that could be related to permafrost thaw or to something else. So the next phase of the work is we're going to gather all this data and put it together in a workshop in Whitehorse attended by maintenance people from NWT and Yukon, and see if we need to make changes to maintenance practices. And then the ultimate goal of the study is to see, is there enough to actually complete a formal assessment. These are the participants in the group. Don, he was the official photographer. The NWT folks, even though I presented this thing from Yukon up to Inuvik, we actually did the trip from Inuvik down to Dawson City, and the NWT folks all turned around at the border. And I think it's because they were a little bit embarrassed that the Yukon section of the Dempster was in better shape than the NWT section. That's it. Thank you.